Good morning everyone, George Packard Family Lawn and Landscape. Today I'm going to take you along on a job site whereas we are redoing pavers. This is another lake property, so follow along. I'll show you what we do. There's a do-it-yourselfer job. As you can see, yep, we're going to do it ourselves, honey. Save some money. Alright, let's go up here. That'll show you. It's getting kind of chilly. Look at the frost on the ground. Look how things are getting here in Wisconsin. It's just started November. Get it in the sunlight. See how it glistens. If you were on that side, you could probably, God almighty, why do I have to tell you what to do on every step? Look at frost. You know what that means? That means hunting season's right around the corner. So, now, what happens with these retaining walls? I'm not a big fan of retaining walls. I've done them a million times. It's not what we're here to do today, but I'll just show you here. Look at what happens to retaining walls. This is what happens up here in Wisconsin. We have so much frost in the ground, it's hard to keep these walls together. I'd much rather do boulder walls or, you know, wood walls or something like that, but this stuff, it's just, they're a lot of work to put together. And then that's what happens. They split, they heave, they move. Here's the project that we're going to work on today. So what happens is, I'm sure this was beautiful when it was put together. And, you know, it looks nice. Everything looks nice right now, but the pavers have settled here a little bit. You can see how they've settled along this, like almost a ½ an inch right across this lip right in here. When you look over to this one, there's some serious problems going on here. Okay. Over time, if pavers do this, I mean, this is just part of it. You'll see what happens. So you put the base in here. A lot of times they use sand, okay? And when they were using sand and the water starts washing down, and then these joints that are here, it'll start washing the actual base material right out of these joints. So you look over here, serious problem coming in here. This is starting to get bad here, but this is a serious washout problem. Now look here, you want to know where that base went? Take a good look right here. See that sand? That tells you, number one, they used sand as a base in there, which was horrible. Back in the day, that's what everybody did. We don't use that anymore at all. So the only time we use it is joint sand for the joints. It's a polymeric sand that hardens up as you water it and whatnot. That's the only thing we're going to use on here. But this stuff, this sand that they have right here, you can see how it's all washed out, okay? That's all sand that's washed out of this area in here because that's what it does. It's like ball bearings. Like if you walk on a beach, you walk on that sand and it's going every which way. It's like walking on ball bearings. And when the water gets it here, it pushes it out these cracks, and before you know it, you have this. So our job today is to come in and try and put this thing back together. All right? So, beautiful lake out there, freezing right now. God's got a great view. Here again, look at this. I swear I have attention deficit. Come over here and look, show this angle right here. Over here. Let me show it a little bit more to you. If you look right here, look at this dip. It's an 1.5 inch dip you have right here. Look at how all that stuff just washed right out of there. Okay? That is insane. You can see here remnants of the sand that comes through this wall. So what we got to do, you got to be careful, I guess, when you start working with these things. As you take them out, you want to take them out one at a time as you go and have them line back up, because you got to put them back the same way you took them out. So it's like pieces of a puzzle. So that's, make sure whenever you tear into this. Some of the first jobs I did, I just came in, tore everything out, and then we tried to put it back together. Oh my God, what a nightmare that was. So take the time, separate them out, lay them right next to where they're gonna go right back in, so that you know how to place them back together. The other thing, with today's technology, take your phone out, snap a picture of them. That way, if you do get any confusion towards the end, you can look at your picture and say, okay, yeah, I see where that piece goes, where that piece goes, and that'll help you out, okay? That being said, let's go to the job trailer, let's get some stuff and get to work. Things you're going to need. You're going to need the rubber hammer, because you're going to be using this to tap some of these down in place to kind of level them. We have a compactor. that we'll get out of the job trailer in a minute. Things like these little pry bars, these are awesome for getting in here and moving your pavers and helps you pull them up. Screeds for coming in, smoothing things off. Those are always handy to have. This is my personal favorite, these little spatulas, because then when you put your base in, you can just kind of smear it out and kind of level it off real good. I like using these guys. So, with those, the gloves themselves are nice. You get these rubber coated gloves. These things are awesome for grabbing brick, you know. It just makes it so much easier instead of your hands all the time, you know. So I think with that, of course, the little levels, always awesome to use. And I think that's about all we're going to need on this one for right now. So, that being said, now the first thing I'm going to do is get up on this wall over here and take pictures of how everything is. So, that way, I know how it is. When I go to put it back, I know how every piece will go. So, especially anything that's, any of the cuts. What you're looking for is the different cut pieces. You're going to take them out and try and put them back the same way you had them. But it's nice to just snap some pictures of them so that those are all, there's not really any intricate cuts around any of that kind of stuff. But over here, there's quite a few. So, once that's done, that will end any confusion when it's time to put them back. Now, these caps right here are glued down, so if we go to get those apart to raise that up over there, we're probably going to bust those bricks. And that's not something, I talked to the homeowner about that. You can't even find this kind of brick anymore. He doesn't even want that monkeyed with. He's like, just raise these and be done with it. Don't, because if we break it, we can't replace it, because this thing has been here for 10 years or whatever, you know, so you're never going to find that type of brick again. So that being said, let us start pulling brick. Alright, so the other thing, these guys, these are kind of nice. I really like these. Fresh out of the job trailer, stuck together everywhere. But these go on like so until somebody else has been wearing them because they're bigger. Alright, so this is kind of slick the way these go together, and they bend with you. I like using these things because of that. They tend to stay up versus some of the old ones. These we've used a lot, and these things slide down. Like, you put these on you, wrap them around, and what you'll find more times than not, as you start moving around on these pavers, these things stretch terribly. So when you put these on, before you know it, they're down around your ankles and they're not worth a shit. These we found, they're more expensive, but you can tighten these things right up, make them nice and snug, and they don't go anywhere. They stay on your knees right where you're at. You can be up and down all day long on them. So I forget who even makes these. Tough Built makes this particular one. So, but yeah, that's what they are. So that being said, I got to readjust them because somebody else had them on, clearly with bigger legs than mine. So we're going to attack this 3 different levels. Everybody grabs a spot, and away they go. And this would be my spot. So I have got to get to work. What happened?
So there's concrete under mine.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm coming over. Share with me.
Here, look. All sorts of this.
Serious?
Unless that's the polymeric dried. But
That's that polymeric. Wow, look at that. That is, show them that again. That is polymeric sand that was used on this. Hit it against there, Sean. See how that is? Well, that stuff got hard. Look at that. That is just hard as a rock down there. Awesome. Well, they did it right when they did it, but they used this sand. You can see the sand here, which is definitely not, I wonder how deep that couple inches, and then they got a limestone base. So the base isn't bad. What's happened is just the sand came out. That 2 inches of sand that they put on. We don't even use that anymore. What we do is we just use the limestone screenings and just do away with the sand and just use it for the filling in the joints. That's it. Makes it much better. Alright. How's your project coming?
Oh, it's coming.
See, Cole's being careful when he lays them out so that he knows how everything goes back together. Very important. Same thing there. How much sand you got there?
A lot of sand.
A lot of sand in there?
It's all sand.
Oh, really?
Little bit of limestone, but
Yeah, a lot of sand they use for leveling.
3 inches.
Yep. Bad idea. Terrible idea. Alright. Okay, so here's what we found when we got in this area. You can see, here's where the big hole was. You can see this old washed sand out here where everything just gave way. Alright. So what we've got to do now, we're going to get this sand and we're going to get it right out of here. Because all it is just creates havoc. Get it back down to the limestone. And at that point, we'll add some new limestone in here. Level it off the way it was supposed to be. Give the wood some nutrients. And then they won't have this problem anymore. Get some limestone in there. Last a long time. It's that time of year again, frozen material. Cold, getting colder. Pretty bad when you got to chisel all your stuff out of a truck. Huh? Okay, so just to show you guys what you do with this, so using the spatula like I talked to you about, just kind of level it off. Look at the bottom of your brick. Now, remember, you don't want to tear this entire thing up and then have to redo all of this, because it's never ever going to go back together the way it originally was. It never does. So, take a section of it at a time, tear this out, put your limestone in. We got rid of the problem, got rid of the sand. Now get the limestone in here, level it off, take your brick, set it up, and look, if you can look and see this right here, this is about where you want to be. Right about here. Right about that level. Okay? So as you're putting these in, when I go across this with a compactor, when all's said and done, I'm going to use that compactor and that's going to beat these down hard on top of that base. Okay? You don't want them up like this, for example, because that's going to be too high and my compactor is not going to beat this thing down where it's level with our caps. Okay, so you want to maintain about this height right here, just about a little more than 1/4 of an inch, I would say, you know, 3/8 of an inch maybe. That's about where I would keep it. I think that looks good in that area. This, shave out again. If you have a little too much in there, just shave a little bit out, look at it again and say, I'm going to take a little bit more out of there. Take a little more out. Look at it, say, yep, a little more yet. That's where I want to be. So do that through this entire thing, and then after you get done, you run a compactor across it, especially where it meets the other ones, and it's going to pack everything right down where it needs to be. So pack it nice and flush. All right, that's that. I'm going to go work on my side. Okay, so in this one area, where we had to add quite a bit of base, it's probably like 6 inches of base in here. Instead of just leveling it off and putting our brick on there 1/4 inch high, and then using the compactor, this is going to sink quite a bit. So what we're going to do, beat it down with the hand tamper, again, we use quite often, because you can't get a regular mechanical compactor in here, obviously. So in this area, we'll hand beat it down. There. Now we can start add a little more on top, and as long as we get about a 1/2 inch on top, that'll be enough for when we put our brick on, run the compactor. Should level it off pretty good. So you can see kind of what we've done here. See how these are raised up right here? See the difference between these and these? All right, and so to be clear on this, those are up there because when I run the compactor, it's going to beat these down, hopefully to where they're all pretty level, okay? So to be crystal clear, homeowner is trying to flip this house. So basically, he just wants a patch job done here so that he can move the house. The right thing to do would have been to tear all this apart and do it the right way. Get rid of all that sand, put the limestone in, pack everything down tight, and move on. But he doesn't want to do that, doesn't want to spend the money. This is exactly what it is, a patch job. Let's get at it. Okay, so now over here we have all the bricks put back in, okay? But what's wrong with this picture? All the bricks are in. Look at this major gap. And you're going to say to yourself, how did that happen? You're going to look around and say, well, there's got to be a brick missing somewhere. There's, you know, somebody didn't put one in there. That's not what happened. I'm going to show you exactly what happened and how to fix it. Over time, these walls move, okay? As they move, it creates gaps. So look here, look how, see how tight, everything is nice and tight here, all put back together, but look at the gap that we have here. See that gap? So, why is that gap? Because when this was put together, you know, they could have cut them this way to the, I mean, the walls move a little bit. So they weren't cut this way when they were put in, but the cuts maybe weren't right. Maybe they were loose, maybe sloppy, maybe they had big gaps. Clearly we got huge gaps in them here, which tells me that the wall moved. I believe the wall shifted out a little bit on this. So what we're going to have to do, what I call, I don't even know if it's a word, dibbying. Has anyone ever heard dibbying? This would be a good spot for you to like type that in, dibbying. And then, if it is in fact a word, we're going to use it. So you divvy up the space. So he's got these tight together. Look at these, okay? What I want to do, I'm going to start right down here. These half of the brick, I'm going to start moving them over. And you do it by picking them up and move them over a little bit. Okay, I want to take half of it up going this way and the other half going this way. So I'm going to pick this up a little bit and I'm going to put a little gap in there. See that? Instead of having them tight together, put a little gap. Try and do it as evenly as you can. And we're going to use that up here in no time. Get a little bit closer. I just want like a 1/4 inch gap through here. See how these are tight together right here? Open them up. Start giving yourself a bit of a gap. Now here there's stuff on this brick, so this one, let's see if I can get it moved over a little tighter by using this one. Spread the gap. Next thing you know, now keep in mind this hasn't been compacted or anything yet. That's coming. Now, I'm almost to the end, and I've used up my space. Okay? Now, do the same thing going back. I'm going to put that little 1/4 inch gap in here, and just start moving the rest of them in here. So I'm taking that 2.5, 3 inches that it was off, and I'm going to divide that up amongst these as I go across. So it is not so noticeable as a 3-inch gap. And you will have this. You'll have this on every job you do. When you are redoing someone else's work, it never goes back together perfectly the way it was the day this job was done. I'm sure the day this job was done it looked beautiful, but it's not that way anymore. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we've picked them up, thrown the base down underneath. We're going to run this compactor across them, okay? And what that's going to do is help flatten them out and make everything more leveler. How's that sound? Better? Yeah? All right, now, thing to remember when you're doing this, you don't want to stay in one spot and just beat the crap out of that spot, because you'll beat yourself a little hole right in there, a little ditch, you know. So you don't want that. You want to go as evenly as possible. Now, if I see a problem, if I see a spot where maybe we have a little much in it, I may hold it for a little bit, but that's all going to be on me. That's what I see when I'm going over this thing. Usually, you should only have to go across this twice, and it should be packed down enough where you can walk away and it should be good to go. Tight spots, like up in here, you're never going to get to these spots. You know, some of this is going to have to be done, you know, with your rubber hammer, you know, if they're up tight against the house like this, because you just can't get in there. But the rest of this I can get. So. What? Always wear hearing protection. What? Hearing things. It's that constant ringing in my ear. That's what it is. But as you can see, look at how nice this turned out. Flatten this stuff right out. Perfect. Blended it in nice. Everything is nice and flat. Huge difference from what it used to be. Huge. Now you'll notice right in the end I had to kind of hold up on this a little bit because I saw we had a little bit too much in this one spot, so I just held it worked it back and forth a little bit, and it just beat it right down perfect. Now all we have to do, get our joint sand. We'll straighten out a brick or two, because sometimes, you know, the vibration shifts them a little bit. We'll straighten them out with our handy dandy little straightener tools here, and which is basically glorified pry bar. But as we do that, as soon as we get done with that, we're going to take our polymeric joint sand, put that all over them, sweep it in the joints, and we're going to be done moving on to the next thing. So let's get busy with that. Alright, so now Cole is putting on paver joint sand. Just going to screw that out, put that in some holes. We got a couple of bags of that, smear it around and make it work. Okay, so we're done with this entire project now. The last thing you do that you have to remember, that polymeric joint sand, when you put it on there, it leaves a film on top of those bricks. So the very last thing I do is come across with my blower and just lightly dust it off. Leave everything in the cracks, leave all the joints filled, but then lightly dust it off, which I've already done here, but you can see, you can see the difference in the red brick and the brown brick, because otherwise it leaves that film on top. And if you water it, so the last thing we have to do, we have to water this, wait 15 minutes, water it again, do that 3 times. Joint sand sets up, everything's good to go. Life is good again. Now we're done. We fixed all the bad problems here. It's a patch, like I said, but it is what the customer wanted. So, that being said, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask down below. I try to answer everybody. If you want to know anything about any of the products I use, we have links down below for them also. And that's that. This is George Packard, Family Lawn and Landscape. Thank you all for watching, and as always, I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Hard to watch a cat when the van keep dropping.